Hey everyone, Sam here, thanks for joining me. I'm out again in my local area in this rural setting as I've been driving through here a lot lately, just getting inspirations for painting. Just love all these rolling green hills and trees. But the one thing I've been noticing a lot recently is all the farm animals that are around here. So especially horses, cows, sheep, and it's just been really inspiring me to want to learn how to paint them. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm not that experienced at drawing and painting animals, and it's only in the last year that I've started doing so, but I want to learn how to paint these so I can start dropping them into my landscape paintings. I am mostly a landscape painter, but I really do want to spend more time painting other things as well, and especially animals. So in this video, I'm going to show you a painting I've been working on. It started off as a plein air painting that I did last week actually, and it was actually the two horses that were in my previous video. If you watched that, the video I made on painting the trees and fields, and it was a spur of the moment thing. I was out with my paints and I thought I'm just gonna have a go at painting these horses, even though I'm really not that experienced at painting animals. So as well as showing you the painting tutorial videos, I want to share with you my art journey, as I'm still learning to paint just like you guys are as well. So this video is more about just showing you what I'm working on. I am still going to give you some tips on some colour mixing and the tonality of the painting, but once I get a bit more brush mileage under my belt, I will make some proper tutorial videos on painting animals. So again, I'll just give you a quick tour of the location and then we'll get into the video. Now, if you're new to my channel, then please consider subscribing and give it a thumbs up if you like this video. Also, feel free to leave me some comments. Anyway, hope you enjoy this video. Let's roll the tape. So I'm up here in northern New Zealand and it's a little bit warmer up here as we're sort of bordering on the subtropics. It is winter here, but we don't really get snow and ice or anything. It's more just a lot of wet weather like it is at the moment. But it still looks amazing. The landscape looks beautiful. Just even on a grey day like this. Certainly gives me some ideas for some paintings. Alrighty, so I've just jumped in the car and I'm going to get going and show you the area that I painted in the other day where I was painting the horses. I'm not sure if they're going to be there or not, because when I drove past the other day they were in a different field, but you never know. But I'll show you some of the area anyway, in between dodging the heavy showers, as it's not the best weather today, but never mind. Anyway, let's get going. Right, so the location is just a couple of kilometres further on down this road. And even despite the fact that it's not the nicest day, I still feel very lucky to live here. There's just so much to paint. Right, I'm just driving towards where I was painting before. I can actually see the two horses on the hillside there. Not sure if you can see that in the video. I'm just using my iPhone to film this. But we're going to go down here again. And let's have a look. Wow, we've just had so much rain here. You can see how it's just pooling off at the side of the road and turning into little streams. I'm actually going to have to be careful driving down here because this car's only a two-wheel drive. Don't want to get stuck in the mud. Okay. Wow. Okie dokie, gonna have to be super careful driving over here. Right, I'm just gonna pull over here because this was where I was painting. Let's just get out. Hope we can dodge the rain as well. Okay, so here I am. I don't know if you can see them over there, but those are the two horses. Just see if I can zoom in. So anyway, when I was painting here the other day, the horses were standing there, but I can see there's some cows in the field instead. It's just a great location. I found some other areas around here that I can potentially paint. Obviously not today because the weather is not good at all. Let's see what we got here. Hello friends. This area is awesome. You can see where we've had a lot of rain. So when I decided to paint these horses, it was literally a spur of the moment thing. I was driving around looking for somewhere to paint, and then I saw them at the side of the road, and I set up my Pochard box easel and just got straight to it. Now when I saw these two horses here, I just thought, well, there's nothing like throwing yourself in at the deep end, so why not have a go at painting them? Now, I didn't have a lot of time in which to paint them, first of all because it's winter here and I didn't have that much daylight left, but also the horses themselves didn't actually stick around for that long. What I did was I took a few photos of the horses first of all, and then I set up my gear. I also took some photos of the horses with my iPhone because these horses were moving around a lot and I'm not that familiar with their anatomy that I'd be confident enough to just paint them whilst they're walking around. So I know this is cheating a little bit, but I was referring to the photo that I took with my iPhone most of the time. And as it happens, about half an hour into the painting, the horses walked off anyway. Unfortunately, due to the time constraints, it wasn't until later on that I set up my camera, and it means I don't have any footage of me starting the painting, but the rest of this video will be me adding detail to this painting in the studio. Now the great thing about painting outside is it's really a good way to capture the colours and tones and atmosphere of the day, and I always feel that it adds an aliveness to your painting. Also, I've found that painting outdoors has really helped improve my painting skills. So when I was outdoors painting here, I didn't get a chance to finish it just because it was getting dark and the horses had disappeared. But I got enough information down there, and with my reference photos, I've got enough information to add more detail to it in the studio. Now, these are the reference photos that I'm using. Some I took with my iPhone and the other ones I took with my camera, but the sun wasn't out for that long at all, so I had to make a guess really where the highlights are on the horses. The horses are backlit because the sun is coming from the left side of the painting, so there wasn't that many highlights to paint on them. Now when I do studio paintings, I'm always trying to find a medium between a nice loose gestural painterly style but also some detail in it as well. So that's what I'm trying to go for with this painting, not only the atmosphere but just get the character of the horses. Now the first thing I did when I was in the studio was readjust the proportions of these horses, because with the limited time I had, the proportions definitely weren't that correct. So anyway, I'm making some adjustments to the proportions and doing it freehand with a mix of burnt sienna and liquid original. And as I'm painting in oils, the liquid original is going to help speed up the drying time. Now the colour of these horses is a greyish white and it's a very light tone. These horses are also in shadow as well, with only a few highlights from the direct sun shining on them. So I need to keep this in mind when I'm painting the horses, and I'm mostly going to be mixing a few neutral greys with just a few subtle changes for the main body of these horses. I'm keeping my paint mixtures simple, so here I've already got the burnt sienna on my palette that I use to re-outline the shapes of the horses, and then I mix some ultramarine blue and then titanium white to adjust the value. Then I create a few more different mixtures with just these colours, so I'll shift it more on the blue side in some areas and then more on the burnt sienna side in others. Now because burnt sienna is a dark orange, orange being opposite to blue on the colour wheel, when those two are combined they cancel each other out, and especially when combined with titanium white we can start making these natural looking greys. You can also create a near black just by mixing ultramarine blue and burnt sienna on its own. As I was painting the main body of the horse, I was looking for where the dark shadows are and where those lighter areas are within the horse's body, and I was adjusting my paint mixtures accordingly. I found that the darkest areas within the horse were along its neck, its shoulders, hip and belly. Once I'd spent time working on this, I then applied the highlights to the horses. I used some of my other reference photos that I took with my DSLR camera, as the sunlight only came out for about a minute, so just enough to get a few photos, but I did have to make a little bit of a guess where those highlights were going to sit on the horse. Not ideal, but next time I shall get some better photographs. But regardless, really, this painting is just about capturing the character of the horses and the overall atmosphere of the landscape. Now, the reason that I spent so much time working on the horses first of all is so that I could make sure that they were working, because I didn't want to spend a load of time painting the background and then find that I was completely struggling with the horses and that it wasn't going to work at all. So I made sure the horses are working and then painted the landscape in the background. But aside from that, I'm actually going to be using the colours that I've mixed for the grass to fill in the negative spaces around the horse so I can further define their forms. So this is another reason why I painted the horses first. When I was happy that the horses were underway, I then started back in the painting, the furthest zone that's away, and that's the sky. And I'm actually able to use the same colours in the clouds that I've used in the horses, so a varying mix of ultramarine blue with burnt sienna and titanium white for the heavier clouds, and then a mix of titanium white with some burnt sienna for those cloud highlights that are coming through. Now, one of the other main things I'm trying to depict in this painting is capturing the last of that evening sunlight just before the sun sets. So there's still some strong light in the scene, but the sun is quite low in the sky. I worked on adding more shadows to the hill in the background, and this is a mix of ultramarine blue with yellow oxide, a little cobalt teal and titanium white. And then I re-established the highlights, and this was a mix of yellow oxide with ultramarine blue, some cadmium yellow to increase the saturation of this colour, and then I've also mixed in a little bit of quinacridone magenta and cobalt teal. I used the same green mix for the grass in the foreground, but I just increased the saturation a little more by mixing in some more cadmium yellow. I also mixed in a little bit of phthalo green as well, and if I needed to, just rounded off again with some quinacridone magenta. And it's here that I'm filling in some of those negative spaces around the horses. It helps to further define their shapes. The trees in the midground are some of the darkest values in the painting, so I restate the shadows, which is a mix of ultramarine blue and yellow oxide. So this creates a dark tone. And then I use the same colours in the foliage that's in light, but I use more yellow oxide, and I also mix in a little bit of cadmium yellow and some cadmium orange. At this point I let the painting dry so that I could add more layers to the horses and start building up that three-dimensional form a little more. Now, once the painting was dry, I went straight in there by adding some more of those highlights to the horses, and this was a mix of titanium white with a little bit of burnt sienna and yellow oxide. I applied the paint with a No. 0 synthetic round brush, which has got a nice fine point to it. I painted some warm reflected light in areas of the horse such as its shoulder and its back, using a mix of ultramarine blue with burnt sienna, yellow oxide and titanium white, but I've shifted the colour more on the burnt sienna side. I also started adding finer details to the horses, such as the eyes, nostrils and mouths, using a dark tone of ultramarine blue with burnt sienna. Now that the horses were nearly done, I then turned my attention to other elements within the landscape, such as the gate and fence in the foreground, which I made much darker in value just so that it would stand out a little more. The gate was actually quite dark anyway, and it was also in shadow. It was here that I also spent much more time on the landscape in the midground, so painting some of that exposed earth and more shadows in the grass. And then painting the grass highlights, in which I used an old No. 2 flat brush where the bristles had splayed out a little bit, but this is perfect for communicating clumps of grass. And with each progressive layer that I was adding to the grass, I was making it lighter in value, but also maintaining the colour saturation to a certain degree. I finished up the painting by adding some highlights to the gate and the fence post, and then a few more details to the horse's nose and mouths. I painted the suggestion of wire on the fences, and then just added a little bit more refinement to the sky, but it is here that I decided that the painting was finished. Now, as I said before, I'm pretty inexperienced at painting animals, but I'm definitely going to be doing more animal paintings. And another thing that I find helps is to sketch them as well. So in fact, over the last year I have been doing quite a few sketches of animals in general, just because I knew this is something that I want to do. As I'm mainly a landscape artist, one of the main things I want to do is start dropping more animals into my paintings, because I really think that they add life and character and more to the story of the landscape that you're painting. So I know these horses probably aren't perfect and there's probably a few errors in them, but I really enjoyed painting this, and I'm definitely going to be painting more animals. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it inspires you to have a go at painting animals or drawing them and just getting outside of your comfort zone, because this totally helps towards making you a better artist. And it doesn't matter if you make any mistakes, because you always learn something from it, and chances are if you're painting you can correct it anyway. After painting this artwork, I'm really inspired to just get out in my local area again and have a go at painting some more animals on plein air and taking them back to the studio. So I'll make some more videos on this, and when I've painted a few more animals I'll make some proper tutorials on them. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel and give it a thumbs up. Now, if you want to see more of my artworks, then check out my website at samuelerp.com, and I also have a load of painting resources on there if you want to learn how to paint. So I have a blog on there with lots of written tutorials and painting videos for sale as well that are full-length painting tutorials. Now, you can also view those full-length tutorials on my Patreon channel for just $5 a month, where every month you get a new video and you get access to all of my other full-length painting tutorial videos. I've put some links in the description below, and you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I shall see you in the next one. Bye!